One of the biggest changes to arrive with Renegades was the introduction of a brand new weapon subfamily known as heat weapons, aka the blasters from Star Wars. And as you can imagine, given that heat weapons behave so uniquely and differently from all of our other standard legendary weapons, they did indeed ship with some brand new weapon perks specific to them. But more generally, given that Renegades is a major expansion, plenty of new weapon perks, 13 to be exact, have made their way into the loot pool. So today I wanted to bring you the results of my testing on every single one of them to let you know which ones are good and have the potential to make their way into your loadouts, and which ones are less up to snuff. So if you enjoyed today's content, then a like and subscribe is very much appreciated, but without further ado, let's get into it. Adhesive Ordinance is a new kinetic weapon exclusive perk that currently only appears on the something something sniper rifle and the duty bound auto rifle, and it reads as follows. Collecting ammo loads an explosive round that adheres to surfaces, has an improved detonation shortly after impact, and applies exhaust. So for starters, collecting any ammo brick, including the kinetic bricks from the Kinetic Synthesis artifact mod, will give you ordnance loaded in the bottom left corner, and then your next shot fired will attach a sticky bomb to the target that explodes after a short duration, causing stagger and exhausting the target, as seen by the red debuff outline. The damage of the sticky bomb is actually pretty good too. Normally the sniper hits for 863 damage for a headshot, and the sticky bomb deals 980, which honestly isn't terrible. This does also leave some room to be crafty with the perk, because if you sit right up close to a boss that's being divved while standing in a well, you can use the Kinetic Synthesis bricks to auto-reload your sniper and frequently apply these sticky bombs, one every other shot for example. And yeah, this is a pretty wacky DPS strategy, but it's surprisingly effective, even more so if you manage to get yourself the god roll variant of the sniper that comes with Accelerated Assault, the shiny origin trait that's kinda like a pseudo rewind rounds that also increases damage. So overall, a pretty cool perk that can definitely be taken advantage of right now. Next up is yet another ammo related perk known as All Star. This one states that collecting ammo loads this weapon from reserves and enhances its damage and reload speed for an improved duration, and as of right now is only available on the duty bound auto rifle, the something something sniper rifle, the Astral Horizon shotgun, and the Peculiar Charm comp SMG. So taking a look in game, without the perk the sniper deals 814 damage, then after collecting an ammo brick, and by the way the kinetic bricks also work for this, we're now dealing 937 damage, which is an overall 15% damage increase, so the same as something like Frenzy for example. The perk also grants plus 100 reload speed, which is nice I guess, but overall the activation condition is a little too strict, and again if you are wanting to do a divinity strategy like with Adhesive Ordinance is just better because the damage is a lot stronger, so this perk is just pretty mid. Butterfly, as the name might suggest, is a new explosive perk that works kinda similar to Firefly or Dragonfly, but in a more weird and roundabout way, because it reads, aiming this weapon for a short period without firing causes your target to explode the next time you deal final blows. Timer resets when you stop aiming down sights, which is a bit of a mouthful, so let's break it down. For starters, this trait is only available on the Pinnacle Ops crossbow, a good shout, and the Dawning linear fusion rifle Mistral Lift. And the way this works is aiming down sights for around 1 second grants Butterfly in the bottom left of your screen, then scoring a kill, doesn't matter if it's a precision kill or not, makes the target explode. And the radius and damage are fairly respectable, though to be honest, if any new perk these days requires me to aim down sights to achieve a thing or activate it, I'm never really a big fan of that to be honest. It's a cool idea for a Firefly alternative, but feels more clunky than effective. It's like chain reaction, but with an added wait time. So yeah, don't really recommend this one. Now we're moving on to our first heat weapon exclusive perk called Cooling Baubles, which by the way is found on all 10 heat weapons, and it reads, collecting an elemental pickup or an orb of power reduces slightly more heat. And this perk is honestly really strong in the right circumstances, because collecting an orb reduces your heat percentage by 35 points, which is massive, especially considering how long you're able to fire the balanced heat weapon archetype. You can effectively rely on orb gen to allow you to never stop firing, which is pretty cool. What's even cooler still is that it can apply to specific scenarios like this shiny M17 Fast Talker Dynamic Heat SMG when paired with the Titan Exotic Peacekeepers and a method of generating stasis shards, because here you can literally fire the weapon forever. Almost. You can also do a similar thing with Touch of Thunder pulse grenades and the ionic traces that they make, perfect for a Titan tractor support role. So overall, a very solid perk with some fantastic DPS and neutral play applications. Next is yet another heat weapon perk called Delicate Tuning, and again it appears on all 10 heat weapons, reading, while at low heat, this weapon has slightly more improved range, handling, and accuracy. And yeah, right off the bat, this is 100% a PvP perk and doesn't really have a use in PvE, and according to the Destiny Data Compendium, this is up to 22 range and an unknown amount of handling and accuracy cone size that scales from 100% efficacy at 0% heat to 50% efficacy at 50% heat. Like I said, definitely a PvP thing so don't bother in PvE. Coming up next is Meganeura, a returning perk that was previously only available on the Sunset Oxygen SR3 Scout Rifle, which has also made its return this season. However, the perk has been changed so that it may now work on all types of different weapons. The perk reads, Precision Final Blows create an elemental damage explosion that deals more damage based on the number of precision hits dealt beforehand. And this trait rolls on a handful of weapons, but the one we're looking at here is the new Void Pulse Rifle High Tyrant from the Equilibrium dungeon, which also gets destabilizing rounds in the left column to pair with Meganeura. Anyway, the perk itself stacks up to 3 times and is actually pretty perfect for a pulse rifle because of their burst nature. And if you take a look at the clip, at least with this pulse rifle, the damage is pretty substantial at 3 stacks of the buff, showing numbers in the 500 range, which is pretty good. And again, with the dungeon pulse, pairing this with destabilizing rounds makes for a pretty nasty combo. I'm definitely going to be messing with this more since I'm planning on releasing a dungeon weapons god roll guide later in the week, so stay tuned for that. Overall, a pretty solid perk with some great AoE potential. Keep an eye out for it on the dungeon pulse and also the dungeon scout Voltaic Shade. Stopping Power is another kinetic exclusive perk that reads as follows. This weapon's kinetic ordnance can more easily stagger combatants and grants increased target acquisition and damage against low health targets, and at time of recording is present on something, Duty Bound, Astral Horizon, and Peculiar Charm. Now, I believe that the kinetic ordnance part is referring to things like the sticky grenade from Adhesive Ordinance. However, I unfortunately do not have a roll of something with both Stopping Power and Adhesive Ordinance, so I couldn't test whether it does indeed increase the stagger it causes. I did, however, try and see if just the regular shots cause more stagger, but even with or without the perk on, across the entire reserves, I staggered Carl 5 times in both cases, so no dice on that front. According to the Destiny Data Compendium, Stopping Power also increases the weapon's damage by these amounts versus certain hell thresholds. Pause if you need to, and this is admittedly pretty cool since it isn't terribly often you see damage perks available in both the left and right columns. Think of it like a version of high impact reserves that also has more potential to stagger, though this part is probably better suited for primary weapons. Overall, an interesting perk that may become more interesting in the future. Supercharged Magazine is a really cool ARC exclusive reload perk that unfortunately is only currently available on the Horror's Least Pulse Rifle and the Fimbulwinter Stitch sidearm. And it reads, while amplified, ammo is gradually transferred from reserves to the magazine, while in Speed Booster, ammo regenerates faster and overflows the magazine. And taking a look in game, becoming amplified will slowly refill the magazine, about 1 ammo every second or so. However, when you're in Speed Booster, the effect is dramatically improved and loads 4 bullets every second. Plus, it also allows the magazine to overflow to exactly double its base capacity. And right now, this perk isn't exactly that strong since it's only on 2 primary weapons, but as soon as they start adding it to more interesting weapon archetypes like rocket pulses, shotguns, or machine guns, I'm sure it'll become more popular. Sticking with arc perks, next up we have Trickle Charge. This is the new bolt charge synergizing perk that rolls on a fair number of arc weapons this season, namely the Sai Turner 4 Rocket Pulse. And it reads, receiving or discharging bolt charge partially loads an improved quantity of the magazine from reserves. And there's quite a lot to unpack with this perk, so let's start with the basics. For starters, the weapon roll you're seeing in front of you is the Sai Turner 4 with Trickle Charge Rolling Storm. And in practice, this combo effectively allows the weapon to never have to reload because each kill grants several stacks of bolt charge, thus triggering the reload from Trickle Charge. For heat weapons, it's a little more nuanced. Gaining bolt charge won't decrease weapon heat, as seen here where my machine gun isn't cooling down any faster despite me gaining bolt charge. However, discharging bolt charge removes 100% heat, which is pretty awesome and allows you to absolutely unload on an enemy if you are standing behind a Stormskeep barricade, for example. Which actually means that on heat weapons specifically, unless you have a way of discharging your stacks, the combo of Trickle Charge Rolling Storm is actually pretty bad, unlike how it is on the Rocket Pulse, for example. This perk definitely shines the most on the Sai Turner since you can use it in both neutral play and DPS roles, making it a very versatile option. Finally, we have Thermal Atomization, the last heat weapon exclusive perk that again is present on every single heat weapon, and it states that while at high heat, this weapon deals increased damage and causes targets to explode when defeated. And I'll cut to the chase, being above 50% heat increases your weapon damage starting at roughly 8% all the way to an insane 14%. Wait, what, 14? Yep, it's really 14%? Wow, okay. As for the explosive part though, at least that is relatively noticeable. However, the damage increase is definitely pretty disappointing, and given how it restricts when you can or can't use the perk's effects, I probably wouldn't recommend this one. That's it for all the main weapon traits, but also in Renegades came several new origin traits as well. So to finish up, let's quickly blast through all of these while still keeping it informative. Accelerated Assault is a special new origin trait that can roll on quite a few weapons. However, as I'm sure a lot of you have come to know, it only shows up on pre-Masterwork variants, otherwise known as shiny weapons. And this increase in rarity is very much warranted because this origin trait is nuts. And it reads, dealing sustained damage with this weapon loads slightly more ammo from reserves or removes more heat and increases damage. And the best way I can describe this perk is imagine rewind rounds that also increases your damage. The reason for this is because there are several awesome examples of the perk simply allowing you to fire whatever weapon you have it on for much longer than usual, like the M17 Fast Talker with cooling Baubles, or more recently the Sai Turner 4 can empty its entire reserves without the need to reload, and several other heat weapons can now just magically fire more bullets before overheating for not even doing anything extra, which is really bloody good. And by the way, the damage increase is 5% normally or 6% if the perk is enhanced. So overall, if a weapon can roll with Accelerated Assault, definitely try your hardest to get one with it, because yes, it's just that good. Air-Cooled Core is the default origin trait for any of the non-dungeon heat weapons, and it states that sprinting increases vent or reload speed for a short time, while at low heat or full magazine, gain further increased handling and movement speed when aiming down sights. And yeah, it does what it says on the tin. Sprinting for a short while grants the air-cooled core buff and just lets you vent your weapon slightly faster. Not much more to it really. Finally, Imperial Allegiance is the origin trait found on all of the Equilibrium dungeon weapons, and it states that being near allies grants further increased cooling or charge rate and increased damage while at high heat or low guard energy. The cooling/charge rate bonuses are not very important, so how about the damage? Well, I can confirm that if you have at most 3 allies near you, the weapon deals 10.5% increased damage above 50% heat, which is actually a very solid amount for simply being next to someone. Definitely going to be very interesting to test in 6-man setups for raids using the new conspiracy-honed dynamic heat sniper with Vorpal bait and switch. So with that, we have covered every new perk that came to us with Renegades. I hope you enjoyed the video and perhaps learned something new, but at least for now, that's all I've got. Again, if you found this video helpful, your like and subscription would be very much appreciated, and be sure to comment down below what your new favorite perk is. Mine is 100% Trickle Charge. Anyway, I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now, dear viewer.